and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sarah, my pronouns are she, her, and this is a channel about the cross-stitch projects I'm working on and the cross-stitch patterns I design. You can find me at ModCross on Instagram and Etsy, and links to all the places you can find me and links to all the people and patterns I talk about today are down in the description box below. Today is January 31st, 2023, and this is Flosstube episode 2. We're doing it again. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched my first episode, who subscribed, who left a comment. They were all so welcoming and just wonderful to see old friends in the comments and new friends. So thank you so much. If you are new here, if you're just finding me, welcome. I hope you are interested and inspired in the projects that I'm working on and that you'll stick around and subscribe and come back. I want to thank specifically 3 people that have shouted me out on Instagram and Flosstube. My dear friend Nitya, of course, at Daybreak Stitchery, shared on her Instagram stories when I started my channel, as did Sarah at Memphis Sarah E. If you don't watch either of them yet, please go do so. Amazing varieties of projects and lots of progress from both of those ladies recently. And then as I was catching up on Flosstube this past weekend, Allie over at Cozy Cabin Stitchery shouted me out, which was a delightful surprise. She is also a new Flosstuber. She's a mom in the Midwest with young kids and a new designer. So I feel a lot of kinship with Allie. I feel like we're on very similar paths and similar journeys. And she just has a new pattern out for Valentine's Day. So go check that out as well. Cozy Cabin Stitchery. I'm sorry, that's Cozy Cabin Stitching. This is why I take notes. Cozy Cabin Stitching. I'm so sorry. I got the Cozy Cabin. So January was a month of stitching. I have a lot to show today, which is very exciting. And the first is my first of 3 FFOs from this month. And it's my first free pattern. So look up if you want a free pattern. This is called Among Friends. It says stitchers are always among friends. It's just a little guy, but I love it. And when I was thinking about this pattern, when I had the idea, initially I thought of, that feeling after a long day and you come home and you sit down and you've got your favorite scissors and the needles that feel just right and beautiful floss and nice fabric, and those things feel like friends to me. And so I do think we are always among friends. But of course, you have Instagram and people that you interact with on Flosstube. You've got a local stitching group maybe, or a small retreat, all the way up to a big convention or large retreats. I think we are always among friends. And something else that I was keeping in mind as I was designing this pattern is that I am a straight cis white woman from Iowa. And I do feel comfortable in most stitching situations, and I know that that's not the case for everyone. And so I think that if you identify similarly, keep that in mind, especially in in-person situations, that it should be among friends for everyone. So keep that in mind. It's a monochromatic pattern. It's 75 inches wide by 50 inches high. And you can do anything you want with it. You can make each line a different color. You can make each letter a different color. I stitched this on 36 count linen in the color Stone from Fiber on a Whim. And the floss is Belle Soie Empress. So it's this beautiful purple with really nice variegation. So I got a grab bag of silks, both Belle Soie and NPI, from a D-stash over the summer, and so I've started trying to incorporate those into some of my stitching. So I finished it as a pillow. This is my first pillow finish. Got some nice thrift store fabric on the back and some trim left over from another project. Sewing machines and I have a very difficult history, and so we are not on the best of terms, and so I did hand sew this around and stuff it, and I thought it was coming out pretty well, and then it was time to put on the trim, and my oldest child had come home from school and the youngest one was losing patience, and I just really needed to get this done, and so I glued on the trim on this pillow. I know, but it works. I mean, it's not like it's going to market or anything. You guys won't tell anybody, right? You guys won't tell anybody. So that's just, it's a 1/8 inch cording in the color eggplant that I had left over from another project. So I think it'd be great as a gift for a stitchy friend. It'd be great in a smalls exchange for a retreat. The pattern comes with a small backstitched alphabet and numbers. So if you wanted to fill in the bottom corners with initials, with a retreat name, with a date, I think that would be pretty easy to do. There's some back stitches or straight stitches in the needle, and then the eyes are dotted with Smyrna crosses, which is basically just putting a plus sign on top of your regular stitch. There is a diagram in the pattern as well. So let me make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay. I think we got it all covered. How do you get the freebie? That's important. I am starting my email newsletter. And so the link is below. Sign up with your email and you will get access to this pattern. So it's part of my goal in 2023 is to take my designing more seriously as a business. And so this is the first step. And I don't have a lot to share right now, so you're not going to get spammed. But I do have ideas for more freebies, and there are going to be some exciting new releases coming this year. So if you would like to be among the first to know, and if you would like access to this pattern, please consider signing up. I would really appreciate it. So that's among friends. So that was my first FFO. And I've been working on my finishing skills, gluing the trim notwithstanding. But if I'm going to have to iron something, I want to iron all the things, because I don't like getting out the iron. My mom is laughing right now as she's watching, because this has been the case for a long time. And so I knew if I was going to finish one thing, then I might as well finish multiple things. And I did have a finish that had to be done. I had a design accepted for a magazine for their Christmas ornament issue, so you'll get to see that later this fall. And so I finished that and sent it in, but I can show you the color palette and the materials that I used. So it's on 16 count navy blue Aida. It's actually a leftover scrap of fabric from the Books Are Magic model stitch over there. And it's done in DMC with some red étoile for some sparkle. And there's also a gray étoile sparkle as well that apparently got put away. I know it's a question sometimes, how do you store your floss? And for DMC, I do use bobbins because I inherited my grandma's plastic boxes and bobbin collection. And so sometimes when I pull out a bobbin, it'll have my handwriting on it. And then sometimes I pull one out and it's my grandma's handwriting. And that's just really nice. I like it when that happens. So for DMC, I do bobbinate eventually. As you can see, I couldn't be bothered to do it with the 310. I just kind of left the extra with it. But I do bobbinate with the DMC. If it's a fancy floss, if it comes on a fairly sturdy cardboard tag, I leave them on those. But my DMC, I think, will always be bobbinated just because it reminds me of my grandma. Oh, with my ornament model, I did learn a new skill. I learned a new finishing skill. I really did. And that was I made my own cording for the first time. This is a cording drill. It's made by Kreinik, but I purchased it through 123 Stitch. And I watched the finishing tutorial by Vonna, the Twisted Stitcher, Vonna Pfeiffer, here on YouTube. I've used a lot of her finishing tutorials. She does not glue her trim. She doesn't glue her cording onto the pillows. But it was very simple to do. My 9-year-old helped me and had a great time. She thought it was a blast. And so yeah, it worked great. I'm looking forward to using it more so that I can, use exact matches of DMC thread to match the design and trim it. So be looking for that later this fall. And then my third FFO, I can show you, and I'm so excited. So that model I started on Christmas Eve day, and I also started a second thing on Christmas Eve day, and I finished them the same day in the middle of the month of January, and it's Yule Goat. Yule Goat is finished. This is by D's 20 Stitches and Uncanny Kari, the Dream Team. And it's so sparkly. It's on 32 count opalescent linen called Frozen Lime.
I go under it.
I have a 3-year-old with me today, so this might be a little bit choppy. Good job, sweetie. We're also in the middle of potty training, which I'm sure you'll hear about later. So this may get a little bit edited. So 32 count linen opalescent in Frozen Lime by XJU Design. The floss is all étoile. The red is C816. The green is C890. And the brown was C938. 938. Nice. So the design does have greenery on the corners that I left off because I wanted a bit of a smaller finish. And I wanted to try the arch shape. I've done it in some finishing before, but you know, practice is always good. And I love how it turned out. The fringe is white eyelash trim from Purple Paper Mountain. I'm going to double check that too. Purple Paper Mountain on Etsy, which I first heard about from Teresa Koget's Flosstube channel. And they have lots of really good stuff. And, you know, it was D, so I felt like I had to put on fringe. So I actually did the bottom first and then around and did a second layer across the bottom and then trimmed the sides and the top a little bit shorter, but of course left all the fringes on the bottom. I think I'm going to leave this out year round. I don't think I can bear to put this away with the Christmas stuff. Oh, good job, sweetie. And that's the back. That was a backing fabric that I used in a model a few years ago. So that's Yule Goat. So speaking of D, they are a trans stitcher, designer, and activist, and they do an amazing amount of work for our community in terms of education and action. And this year they are doing Stitch for Pride, hashtag Stitch the number 4 Pride 2023 is a year-long series of education, action, and stitching prompts. So it's the February prompts should be up soon. It's very easy to catch up, and I encourage you to do so. You do the education and the action first, and then the stitching. And the actions are incredibly attainable, like signing up for a newsletter, adding books by trans authors to your to read pile. I found a lot of them through my local library and was able to put them on hold. Like, these are achievable things that you can do. And then of course the stitching. And so the stitching prompt for January was to stitch a pattern that has words on it. And coincidentally, I have one that needed to be started with a lot of words. So this is a new start. And Dad, this is a gift for you. So if you're watching, just fast forward about 5 minutes or leave the room or something. I think he's gone. Okay, so my dad has a big birthday coming up in May, and I've had this pattern favorited on Etsy for years and decided that this was the time to stitch it for him. So it's called the Saturn V Blueprint. Okay. And we will pick this up after I help a 3-year-old with their undies. Okay, we're gonna try this again. So this is the Saturn V Blueprint. It's by Lord Libidan, and his Etsy shop is XStitchCollective. And I look at this and I think, well, that'll stitch up fast because it's mostly back stitching. We shall see. There's solid stitches in the rocket itself and then a couple over here. So I've decided that now is the time to stitch this for my dad. And it has lots of words. I just haven't gotten to them yet. So this is my start. I started in the top top right corner. And it really is stitching up pretty fast. I didn't have a lot of time that I put into this month. And so I think I can make it by May. Famous last words. This is 32 count Blue Moon linen from Witchelt. And it uses DMC Blanc as the floss. So I'm really excited to put more time into this in February because I really need to make sure that I'm off to a good start on it, so I can get it done by May. Okay, Dad, you can come back. I had one more new start in January, and that was my New Year new start. And I knew I was going to start it because I was getting the giant piece of fabric for it from my sister for Christmas, along with some of the floss. And so I was able to start it right away on January 1st. This is the second big full coverage piece that I've started. And my goal for my full coverage pieces this year is to put in 1,000 stitches a month on each of them. And I know some months I'm probably not going to make that. May and September, I can almost guarantee. But so far so good. We're off to a good start. And so this is my new start, my first Heaven and Earth design. It's called Peacock. Look at it. Oh, I'm so excited. So this is artwork by Elizabeth Welker, and it's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And it's enormous. It is 625 stitches wide by 576 stitches high. It's huge. So when my sister gave me the fabric, I kind of held the whole thing up for the rest of the family, and they were like, wow, you're gonna stitch on that whole thing? And I said, yeah, you can come see it at the Iowa State Fair in 20 years. And then I did the math on the stitches, and 20 years might not be that far off. So then I just stopped doing math, and I just said, we're gonna stick with 1,000 a month, because started is closer to done than not. And now we're 1,000 stitches in, and I have not yet figured out how to wrangle all this fabric. It's ridiculous, but this is the start. So I started down in the bottom right corner because I thought it's a lot of 310, and there's another, I think, dark blue speckled in there as well. But it's a lot of 310 and maybe 6 or 7 yellows and browns and golds in there. And so I thought I'd be able to get the stitch count up fairly quickly. And because I'm really looking forward to all this other stuff across this way, so I thought if I got started here and get it done, that would be a good strategy. So I don't have a real method with my full coverage yet. I was just kind of trying to fill in, because this is where the black starts. So it's right up and just going along the curve. I like to finish the whole strand if I can. And so if I finish one and then there's more somewhere else, I'll jump around to finish the strand. But otherwise, trying to keep it filled in and going somewhat in an order. So that is Peacock. So both my full coverage pieces are on 18 count Aida, and I use 2 strands, full cross, so that I can do my beloved loop start method. So that is Peacock. My other full coverage design is Ripples by Julia at Electric City Stitches. She's on Etsy, and she uses her own original artwork and then makes these amazing, colorful, full coverage patterns from them. And I started in the top left with this one. And I started it last year, probably January in 2022. And I tried 1/1 full cross on 28 count Lugana, and I did not enjoy it. I thought the coverage on 25 count, I see people on Flosstube with these beautiful pieces with 1 strand on 25 count, and I see pictures on Instagram, and for some reason the coverage with mine just was not what I was hoping for, because I thought maybe, well, 25, I'll go down to 28 and it'll be okay. and it still wasn't. And, you know, it was pretty dark colors up here, so that might have been part of it. But something just didn't click. I was maybe 350 stitches in, and I already had a couple of mistakes in counting, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna buy a massive piece of 18 count Aida, and it's much better. It works much better for me and my preferences. So I probably restarted it around April last year, and at the end of the year I had 4,550 stitches in. And so I'd work on it, I'd I'm like, oh, I gotta get back to my full coverage and really enjoy it, and then set it down for something else and not see it for a month or two. And so that's what led to the goal of, you know, 1,000 stitches a month, just to get some steady progress. And I was getting close to a page finish, and I got there. So this is the top left corner of Ripples. I finished January with 5,628 stitches done out of 206,500 that will be total. So I am 2.73% of the way done. But I just love all the blues. We're getting some of the greens along the side. And then this would be an example of where I would be stitching, and then, you know, there's just a little bit that goes into the next page, or I'd have a little bit of floss left. And so if there were more stitches in that color that I could see and easily get to, I would go do them. So I am going to work across. I think I'm going to try to go across the top widthwise. So that is Ripples. And I forgot to give you the stats on Peacock. I stitched 1,023 stitches. So I hit 1,000, and then I had about half of a strand left and wanted to finish it out. So I am 0.28% of the way done. There are going to be 360,000 stitches in this piece. And yeah, it's ridiculous. But it is started. It is started. And that's a very good thing. Okay. So after I got my full coverage done, I have one more whip that I worked on in January, and this got a lot of work. As you may have heard, I have a 3-year-old. She turned 3 in January, and we've been potty training. And so I didn't know that I needed a potty training whip in my life, but I do. So if you are getting ready to do any sort of caregiving where you have to be able to pick something up and just get a couple comfort stitches in, and then be able to put it down and pick it up and put it down, may I recommend Gathering Snowflakes by Luminous Fiber Arts. So I started this on the first day of winter back in December, and I had a decent start on the top border, I think, when I showed it in my last video. And just monochromatic comfort stitching at its finest. Because now, after going through about 10 days of potty training, I am almost halfway done. I don't think the blues are showing up particularly well today, but I've got both birds done, got the snowflakes filled in, the border's about halfway down, and this is the start of the snowman's hat. So this is on 36 count swank linen from Fortnite Fabrics. And I'm using the same piece of linen for all of the series. I'll finish them individually and cut them, but they'll all be stitched on the same linen. So making much better progress on this one than I did on the Gathering Acorns for the autumn. So this has been life-saving, maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but only a little bit. Let's just put it that way. So Gathering Snowflakes. Oh, the floss is the called for Belsois silk in Mare Blue. Gorgeous. So nice. Okay. I didn't get much stash investment or acquisitions in January. My birthday is next month, and so between Christmas and my birthday, I tend to kind of hoard all my gift cards, and then Market comes. So the cording drill was the big purchase that I used for my model. I got the fabric and floss for my dad's gift stitch that you saw, and then a couple other flosses, and that's really been it. But my mom did find some old family cross stitch when she was cleaning out her craft room. And we don't know who stitched these. Both of my mom's parents were only children, and so all of the family stuff from, you know, all the other aunts and uncles and sides have kind of filtered down through both of them because there weren't any other siblings to split them with. And so now my mom and her siblings have all of this stuff. And so we're not quite sure where they came from, but they're 2 table runners. And this is the first one. And this looks like a 36 count, but they stitched over 4. So they're big stitches. But it is a fairly tight weave on the fabric. So it's very pretty. It's very, I would say, of the time, probably. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it, but I am glad that we have it. I've seen Allie, again, from Cozy Cabin, has some project bags with thrifted embroidery or saved embroidery on them, which I think is a really, really cool idea. So mulling that over. This one I really like. I might keep this as it is. Just a nice little table runner. And this was either stitched by a different person or the same person at a very different point in their stitching journey. This is a lot neater. And I'm wondering if they did this hem stitching themselves. I don't know. I can't quite tell. But I love the little hearts on the side. So that was a fun surprise from Mom. And just to know that there have been stitchers, you know, that come in my family before me, and obviously my mom, because she taught me, but just going back farther, it's a really nice feeling. Okay, plans. We are on to plans. I try not to let myself make too many plans, because I am the type of person that if I have a plan and it doesn't happen, then it's a failure. And I'm really working on that with my therapist and in life. You know, just because it's a plan doesn't mean it has to be the plan. But with cross stitch especially, I try to cut myself a little more slack and not make too many plans. So the full coverage, 1,000 stitches a month, is my big plan for the year. But February is my birthday month. And last year I did a birthday start, and I did not get very far on it. And so this year, rather than starting something new, I want to touch as many whips in my birthday weekend as I can, because I also don't know how many whips I have. I envy the people with their spreadsheets. I love a good spreadsheet. And so I'm going to use my birthday weekend to create a whip list, fancy spreadsheet for myself, and see how many I actually have. If I had to guess, I would say 30, in the neighborhood of 30 whips. And that includes getting the tub out of the basement that has, you know, the dimensions kits from before children and before learning about Flosstube and local needlework shops and anything other than the cross stitch aisle in large craft stores. So interested to see how many of those I actually have. I remember a couple pieces. I think there's some that aren't started. So we're just gonna explore and see how many. I would like to put a length of floss in as many as I can. So that is my plan for my birthday in the middle of February. And then, since everything will be out, I'm gonna film a whip parade. Woohoo! So that is my plan for February. Oh, next is time for the farm feature. Thank you for all your comments about last month and meeting Rosalie the cow. I passed along your admiration to her, and I'm sure inside she was very interested. So it's kind of hard to top Rosalie, but I know that the stitching community is very pro cat, and we have many, many cats on the farm. My daughter has not yet succeeded in bringing any of them inside. so they're all outdoors. But there are some of them that are friendlier than others, that have names. They all have personalities. But I thought we could introduce some of them for the featured farm segment today. So that is all the stitching, but if you want to stick around to meet some farm cats, that's coming up next. All right, we're going to meet some farm cats now. This is Pouncer. She cannot be bothered to say hello because she is busy napping. Hey, Pouncer. Yep, she does not care. This is Phyllis. We are interrupting Phyllis's bath time. She is not pleased about this. The farm cats aren't pleased by much other than food. Yep. That's how she feels about this. This is Tarzan. Tarzan is sitting on my extra pair of socks. He likes to be wherever people are. If you're opening a door, Tarzan is going to go through it. Try not to step on him. This is midnight. And it's very hard to get a video of you because you just want to be petted at all times. Oh yeah, now Tarzan's jealous. This is terrible content. Come back here. Yeah, you woke up now, didn't you? My daughter kind of adopted and trained and paid a lot of attention to Moonblack and her litter mate, Midnight. And so now they are overly tame. And in the front we have Peter. And in the back is Hissy. Peter is a female cat, but was born during a Beatrix Potter phase for my daughter. And Hissy is fairly self-explanatory if you try to get close to her. It's currently -1 degree outside, but it's sunny. And that makes a big difference. The cats are out, chickens are coming out, enjoying some sunshine. Okay, so that's the farm cats. I don't know who I'm going to use for the next one. We'll have to see. Subscribe and find out. So I have one more feature, which is the Up Next. And it's been a very D's 20 Stitches heavy episode with Yule Goat and the Stitch for Pride. And so if you don't already watch D, I would encourage you to go check out D's 20 Stitches here on Flosstube. And you will learn something. You will see beautiful projects. You might find out about some Canadian makers, fabric dyers, floss dyers that you hadn't heard about before. And just go check out D and all of the incredible work that they are doing for our community. That is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed. If you want to be the first to know when that whip parade comes out next month, hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in getting the free pattern, link below for the newsletter sign up. And other than that, do what you can when you can. Happy stitching.